This video is brought to you by Squarespace. AirDolphin was born in 1984, and he grew up through the entire 90s, so he's a true 90s baby. But recently he's been growing massively on like TikTok and Instagram, so I wanted to speak to him about the era of the 90s, and to see if there's anything we can learn from the 90s that we can bring into today's world in 2022. Yo, Big Dolphin.
Dude, everybody calls me Dolphin, AirDolph, Dolph. My real name's Scott, but nobody calls me that.
You know, I've always been really fascinated by the 90s, you can probably tell. I talk about it a lot. But what it is to me is that the 90s was like this cultural inversion of the 80s.
Two again, left.
It was like this young generation had been fed up with being told what they can and can't do, what they can't say, how they need to behave, and rebelled against society in every way they could.
Reminded people of the good old days of the 90s when you would go skate in baggy pants and just have fun, and you didn't care, and it was just about being stupid outside with your friends, throwing rocks, spray painting, build a fort, be goofy. I'm sure kids still do that, but we didn't get caught back in the day because there's no cell phones. So.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I actually did a 90s rollerblade video first, back on July 25th, 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. It was all just timing with what was going on in the world. Trump was saying that he was going to shut down TikTok. Jim Carrey said something like,
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
it just worked perfectly with the timing that TikTok might end that next day or whatever. That's when it started clicking, like, oh, people want the 90s. Seeing the requests for the different songs. Where's your chain wallet? Oh, you're not really 90s. You're right. I can do this better. I can do more.
I think my favorite reel that you've done, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. That's such a banger. That was the one that got me into you, actually, because I saw someone share that and I was like, what the f***? This is amazing.
In the 90s, it was definitely more carefree. We were a little bit more uptight nowadays. Music was great. Movies were great. TV shows were great. And then you could go outside and have fun.
Before we go any further, I want to give a massive shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace is the ultimate website building tool. It's super easy to use, it's very reasonably priced, and it's perfect for all applications of website building. Whether you're a PT building your own business, perhaps you're an artist and you want to put your portfolio out there, or even something more elaborate as like a clothing store, Squarespace has you covered, with tons of built-in tools to help you get the job done, such as e-commerce, members-only content, and mailing lists. Squarespace has loads of templates for you to choose from. They all look super sleek and really professional, and they're very easy to customize to suit your brand perfectly. In the past, I've always used Squarespace for my own websites, and that's because I don't want to fork out a ton of money for a web developer when it's something I can do myself. So be sure to head over to squarespace.com/Jimmy the Giant to start your free trial today. And to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain, use the code Jimmy the Giant. Anyway, back to the video. I would say rollerblading was like the quintessential activity of the 90s. This whole idea of like extreme sports and like these lifestyle sports were very different to what sports were before. Beforehand, people would just go and do football, rugby, tennis, like in the UK. In America, like American football, basketball. And that was it. That was sport. So like the edgy outcast kids that were sick of these organized sports would try and look for something else to do.
Oh, the X Games.
Just mixing it up incredibly well. Back-to-back 540s, a backflip for the crowd.
And there were a bunch of other types of competitions that came from that. One was called Gravity Games. There was one called NISS, NISS, and they would just travel from city to city, put on demos, get hundreds of kids to compete. They would get tons of money, so it was great for the industry. Just to see so many people out skating, you know, kids would be like, this is something I want to be a part of.
And so they would skip football practice, strap on some rollerblades, go outside, set fire to a dumpster, annoy some security guards, run away, and that was kind of life. That was what they did.
People were just open-minded, just genuinely, I think, a little bit more happy. They didn't have to get this dopamine rush to see your latest likes or anything. You had to just go outside and do stuff. The biggest difference is the cell phone. Invention of the cell phone completely changed how we just see the world. Before, you had to go outside to have fun. You had video games, but you had to use your imagination and you'd pretend you were a Mortal Kombat character with your your buddies and you know, fight outside and be like, okay, I'm Scorpion and you're Sub-Zero. Now the technology is so good, you can just stay home and play Call of Duty all day.
Try to get Nico off video games, and he can only have 5 hours a day, and his answer is, oh.
Being that I actually grew up in the 2000s, I got to experience a very interesting time. I had the mix of like technology and playing outside. So I would sit and play video games a lot, and then I'd go outside and fall out of trees. And it was kind of interesting because the games and the technology sort of inspired real life. And it was fun. Like, we would get lost for hours in our imaginations of doing the missions from the games, but you know, in reality, we're just jumping on like curbs and smacking each other with sticks.
Yeah, it's an interesting world nowadays. You can really just watch other people all day long, see what they're doing, and you forget to go do your own stuff.
These days it's become so easy to be like deeply entertained by just sitting and staring at your phone screen.
I was kind of like even anti-cell phone at first. Eventually I got an iPhone, got Instagram, just started posting here and there. As soon as we started like filming vertical, we started really filming some silly videos. So I started like kicking cones with my skates on. I started realizing people like this old school music. I stopped enjoying wearing tight pants and stuff like that for whatever reason. At least with me, a couple years ago, I was like, I just don't like this jogger pants anymore and the tight pants. Let me get on some bigger sweatpants and make some funny sweatpants videos. Those did better. People seem to identify, or just, it was something different.
This might be hard to answer. Do you have any sort of big favorite memories culturally of the 90s?
Maybe The Matrix.
The Matrix is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
1999, that was just mind-blowing. It was literally like, okay, wow, this is the future. This new technology of special effects, they're in slow motion. And so that was a huge moment for movies. Some smaller things were just like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, just getting a little bit better and it's just getting futuristic feeling. When video games started being on like discs, they got away from the cartridges, just started to get like a little bit more futuristic. And
I think a lot of people look back and reminded that life just felt a little bit more easygoing. In this era right now, it feels like everyone's just at each other's throats all the time. You're either anti this or pro this. Everyone's got their like opinions on things and they dig their heels into the floor.
So yes, if you work out strictly for appearance-based reasons, you are fat phobic.
And whilst you're scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, you see all these hot takes on divisive issues.
I have a daughter, you need to stop calling her the
And then you find a clip of AirDolphin. With a big smile on his face, without a care in the world, rollerblades on, biggest Jenko jeans you've ever seen, cruising through a shopping centre, accompanied by some iconic piece of music from the 90s. And for a moment, you get to see what life can be like.
the world, everything changes, you know? It's not like a bad world. It's still a great time. You can still be happy nowadays.
So like nowadays, perhaps there's more different avenues to go down. And I would never have heard about certain things if it wasn't for the internet. There's so many things you can do if you can find it and if you can be inspired to do it, because that's the second part, is you need to be inspired to actually go and do it and not just sit and watch it. There is more options. So there is that. And there's also now perhaps more of an ability to create businesses that use the internet, live off it. So that side of it is a very good thing.
Now, I have to be honest, I don't know if this is just me being nostalgic. We very often mythologize history to seem better than it probably really was. But I think there's a reason why we do that. We look back at these eras and find things that were great about it, and perhaps see what modern society might be missing. I mean, you just have to look at all the 90s film remakes that are happening at the moment. The recent rise in rollerblading.
Dang, buddy.
MGK's pop punk album. It is more 2000s, but it's a similar kind of era. The 90s and the early 2000s are having this like resurge.
I do just think people are like reminiscing on just the way that culture was, because it was such a culture of like freedom. In like a sense, you could just kind of do what you want and get along. The current time is perhaps stricter and people want to be free and they want to just enjoy things again.
You can't even get free speech. There's no free media. It's bizarre. It's a little bit bizarre. I never would have thought that this would be the current world, but I'm not mad at it. You can still succeed and thrive. You just got to find a new way. You just got to keep evolving and keep trying new things. You got to stay happy, you know, stay positive.
Yeah. Half the reason I'm loving rollerblading at the moment is because it is underground. Like, of all the extreme sports, rollerblading's underground, and it has a history and it has a culture. And it's like, that's exciting to me.
Definitely seen a big resurgence. So many people came back into the sport. A lot of people just sitting home. They got some cash. Oh, I got this big unemployment check. Let me buy some skates. But the thing is, we just need to hopefully their kids will get into it.
Right now, we live in an incredible time to be alive. The internet is an incredible tool. It can build and develop communities of these awesome lifestyle sports like rollerblading, like skateboarding and parkour. The video games we play can expand your creativity, but it can obviously go too far. The more we develop and expand what technology is capable of, the more I hope we learn to use it responsibly.
One thing I want people to take away is loosen up a little bit, you know, get funky fresh out there, get some big stuff, and check out the Genkos. Looser clothes, looser mindsets.
I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different than usual. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And check out this video right here.